What's going on, world? Coming at you guys again. We got another quick video. Memorial Day. Let's talk about it. So, it's 2026. We are moving into Memorial Day. The reality of the situation is we are currently in a conflict in the Middle East, in Iran. Unfortunately, since the beginning of this conflict, we have seen multiple soldiers lose their lives. So this Memorial Day is dedicated to them specifically, as well as all of the service members who passed away in or out of the line of duty, whom sacrificed their lives for the continuity and the safety and security of the country. Personally, I'm a U.S. Army veteran. I spent almost 10 years in the U.S. Army during Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom. I had the opportunity to deploy to Korea twice on two different occasions for specific countermeasures. And, fortunately for me, I am still here. So, I don't want to make this about me. I want to recognize all of the birds who are no longer here. The saying is, birds of a feather flock together. And some birds in which have found themselves in unfortunate positions and they are no longer here, well, those are the birds that we are recognizing for this Memorial Day. And it is for all the rest of the birds whom find themselves in positions in which they are still flocking with the other birds whom are of the similar character and demeanor. Count your blessings and count your acknowledgments, because as it stands today, not all birds come from the same background. Not all birds still flock with the same birds in which they came from the nest with. And while some birds have continued to flock with the same birds from the nest and surrounding birds in that environment, there are few birds who made it out of the nest and have separated themselves and are no longer birds but are now eagles, because they fly higher than everybody else. This is what we recognize on today's Memorial Day. The birds who separated themselves and unfortunately were cut down, trying to soar as high as they possibly could. It is times like these where we have to recognize that although some birds have flocked together from the nest, as well as the environment and the rest of the birds in which they've continued to flock with, it is those birds who left the nest, whom recognized that they were not like the other birds, and ventured out and soared to new heights of their own accord. And those birds that we recognize on Memorial Day sacrificed everything to try to become the best person possible, or the best bird possible in which they could be. And as it stands, I understand we have a lot of individuals around the world, as well as in America, whom have taken the time to degrade and disrespect the actions and lives of those whom try to ascend and try to fly as high as possible by speaking negatively or falsely about the actions and the intent of those birds whom flew as high as they possibly could, because they themselves are still flocking with the birds from the nest, as well as the birds that they flocked with outside of the nest in that environment. It's time to call a spade and recognize the situation for where we are in this country as a whole. We would not be here if it were not for the actions of those whom heard the call and put themselves on the line. Because if it were to have been left up to all the other individuals whom refused the call and did not strive to become the best that they possibly could be, America would have no freedom. America would have no safety. America would have no security. So we must have reflection, and we must take the time for consideration of individuals whom would talk down upon our fallen soldiers, our fallen brethren, this Memorial Day. Again, it says the old saying goes, misery loves company. And this Memorial Day, I refuse to allow our service members, our soldiers, our veterans, those that have passed for their actions in the line of duty, to give safety and security for the country in which they duly wanted to represent. Especially for individuals whom didn't have the courage nor the integrity to put themselves on the line. May God be with you, and may God have mercy on your soul. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that you can do as an individual is to honor and recognize those whom have sacrificed everything to give you an opportunity. And if you are taking the time out of your day to degrade or disparage another individual through what I can only understand or comprehend as jealousy, envy, or just a sense of shame of your own actions in comparison to what other individuals whom put their faith in God to keep them safe and unfortunately were called home too early, then maybe you shouldn't be a citizen anymore. Maybe you have no right to be an American. Because at the end of the day, this is the Garden of Eden. And it takes a collective group of individuals to keep safety and security within itself. You know, happy Memorial Day.